the famine. And the Israelites lived in peace there for quite a while uh, until Tuxmore the first, Pharaoh Tuxmore the first. He lived during that reign, and then the second one, Tuxmore the second, came into power, and he didn't know Joseph, so he was ready. Forgive me, I have to put the glasses on and off. He come into power, and so he didn't even know Joseph, and so at the time the Israelites were so outnumbered. They had lots and lots of people. The estimate was about probably half a million to a million people. And this Pharaoh was so scared that one day, if war broke out, that they was going to turn against them and get on the enemy side and fight against them. That's what I was afraid of. And that's the point. That's when the beginning of when this Pharaoh decided that he wanted to get rid of the Hebrews, the babies, when the women started having babies and stuff. He wanted to get rid of the boys. He says, I want you to get the boys and I want you to kill them because anyway, I want you. You get me nervous now. I'm sorry. Let me see where I'm at. Lord help him. He said he began to multiply, and the enemies, Lord, and Pharaoh and the midwives, one of the boys to be thrown in the river. And to Pharaoh, he went to the midwives and he said, this is what I want you to do. Anytime the boys were born, I want you to get them and throw them in the river. And they could not do that. They fear God. They fear God, so that they just could not do that. In my fact, they would not do that. And Pharaoh went to them and says, why aren't you doing what I told you to do? And they fear God. They says, we just can't do that. Plus, the Israelite women, the Hebrew women, they have babies a whole lot faster than the Egyptian women. Because they work hard. And when you work hard and you exercise more, I don't know if a lot of women knew this, but when you do that, you have an easier birth. And see, they had an easier birth before the midwives get there. The babies pretty much just kind of slide on out. And so, and plus the midwives, it says, they're nothing like the Egyptian women, because the Egyptian women were delicate, because they had slaves that wait on them hand and foot, so they didn't have an easy time in giving birth, because, they just pretty much just sit around and probably have the waves fan them and stuff when it's hot or whatever the deal. But like I said, the Hebrew women, they had their babies so much easier. And that's a fact. Women, girls, whenever you get married and you have a baby, do plenty of exercises, seriously. You have such an easier birth. Hopefully you won't be in labor forever. And so they could not do that. And so, as Tim says, my rabbit trail here. Oh, anyway, and then, okay, and then you got Aram, Mayor Jacobed. This is the mom that had Moses. She had 3 children. Well, she's from the Levi tribe. Both of them are from the Levi tribe. And they had 3 children. They had Miriam, they had Aaron, they had Moses. And I want you to know, by the time Moses came along, Miriam was 7 years old and Aaron was like 3. And then Moses was just born. He was born, I wrote it down, he was born in 1525 BC. And she looked at him and he said, he is the perfect perfect baby. He's perfectly formed. And then, of course, during this time, they was killing, Pharaoh was killing the boy babies and stuff. She had to hide him for 3 months. Can you imagine trying to hide a 3-month-old baby? It's kind of hard. So she had to hide him, and make sure when the soldiers come in, she had to make sure he was good and fed. She nursed him real well because when he came in, he needed not say a peep. He didn't have, so he couldn't cry. No, because if he cried, Pharaoh then could take him and kill him. And you know what? I feel like God had a plan for Moses, for little Moses. Jochebed seen that he was such a special child, and she done everything she could to keep him safe. And that's what us moms should do with our children. Do whatever we can to keep them safe. And she did. And what she did is and I know she prayed over Moses every day. God, please protect my son. And I feel like God instilled an idea, put in her mind to build this little ark, kind of like this, sort of like this. Of course, I didn't pitch it inside now because I might want to use something else. But I can see that she got this little boat right here. She made it from Papa's reed. And did you know with this Papa's reed, it's like a kind of weed. And I want to tell you just a little bit about this reed. It grows 10 to 15 feet high above the marsh water. And there's a pit inside of this reed. Believe it or not, you can use it as food. And I didn't know that. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And not just that, not just that, but you got the hard part of this reed. And you can make different stuff. You can make a lot of things out, like boat sails. I looked it up. You can make small fishing boats, sandals, blankets, besides the little boat, and all kinds of stuff. And the most important was paper. And that was in the ancient Egypt, the Egyptians used. And even the Greeks, even in the Romans, even took up this. And I thought it was so interesting because it's so strong. And this little boat that she made, and she got it and she pitched it inside out to make it waterproof. And I do believe she had a lid on top of it to keep the sun off of them and the bugs from biting them and that kind of thing. And then, of course, you know the story that she hid them in these reeds. And I'm going to tell you, when I see a big body of water, my husband can tell you, all I can think of is snakes and alligators. And of course, the Nile don't have alligators, they have crocodiles. And all I can think of is crocodiles and snakes want to eat my baby. And I know the Jochebed prayed, God, please protect my child. Not just let the soldiers get him. Please don't let the crocodiles and the snakes eat him. Lord, please. And so she hid him in the reeds in the Nile River and had Miriam stand a ways to watch over him. And I want you to know she watched over him. And then next thing you know, the princess comes and decides to take a bath in the Nile River. And then here she's bathing, and next thing you know, she hears baby Moses. She hears something. And she sends her maids out to get this basket. And they open it up and they see it was a little baby, a Hebrew baby. And she had compassion on this baby. And she had compassion. And then next thing you know, Miriam comes jumping out of the reeds or from her hiding place and asked her, do I need to get you a nurse? And of course she said yes, because she didn't have any children. So, so I'll go get you a nurse. And of course, you know, the story is she got her own mom. And the princess paid Jochebed a fee, paid her a wage to nursing for her. And baby Moses, and of course they named him Moses. And they get sidetracked there. They named him and paid a wage for them. And well, I was gonna say that Jochebed was able to keep Moses at least 5 years, cause well, back in the day, they breastfed their kids until like 3 years old or so. And when it come, and then she weaned him, not just off the breast, but she weaned him to got him independent, you know, to dress himself, feed himself, that kind of thing. When she thought he was ready to go live with the princess, which is about 5 years old, he went and lived with the princess. But I want you to know, the whole time she had him them 5 years, she prayed over him. She taught him about her ancestors, about Abraham and Jacob and Joseph, and all, just told him all he needs to know. And she instilled God's values. And that's what we need to do today as moms, of course dads too, needs to instill our values in our kids. And we need to bring them to church. And parents, if the parents don't want to bring the kids, I'm gonna say, and I'm not gonna be around, but the grandparents need to step up to the plate to bring these kids to to church. Because if you don't, you know what's gonna happen? The world's gonna get them. The drugs, the alcohol, gangs, the gays, the lesbians, and all this kind of stuff is gonna get them. We don't want that to happen. We want our kids to be saved. And I don't know about you, but I want my kids, not just my kids, but my grandkids to be saved. Because when the rapture takes place, I want them to be in heaven with me. Because I want you to know heaven, it's going to be great, even if they're by myself, but it'd be even better with our kids and grandkids. We need to step up to the plate. We need to teach them everything we can, because the schools not doing a very good job. They're telling us, all right, go ahead and change the sex, even as early as kindergarten, first grade. I think it's terrible. And I think we need to teach our kids do everything possible that we can. And I do believe that's what Jochebed did. She done everything she could. And you know, she done everything she could. Even, of course, the word don't, what I've read, the word did not say that Moses followed all these instructions, because when he went to live with the Egyptians, the Pharaoh and the princes and stuff, they worship other gods. And I'm sure she prayed the whole time he was there, because he stayed in the palace for 40 years. Of course, you know the story, he killed somebody and then he fled. And then he stayed out in the wilderness for 40 years. So about the time he went back to Egypt, he was old. 80, sorry, Mom. He was up in age, and you know, at 80 years old, you're not expecting to have a career change. At least I'm not. I'm hoping to retire myself. But I know the whole time, even when he fled to another country, I know she still prayed for him. And she prayed for Aaron. She prayed for Aaron. She prayed for her kids, and that's what we need to do. Instill prayer every night. Pray with them. Even when they're real little, read to them. Read God's word, and you pray to them. When they get a little older, I did my grandson TL. When he was little, I read to him. When he got to work, he could really read. Before school, I said, sit here at the table, I want you to read at least a chapter. Whatever I want him to read, and he would read it. Come find out later on, he told me he hated that. I told him, too bad. And he knows, if I'm down here, he's in Missouri, he knows. Just, I try to every morning, try to text TL and Tori and say, good morning, TL and Tori. Grammy loves you. The most important thing, Grammy is praying for you. When your kids is at work, your grandkids is at work or at school, of course they usually have phones. Text them and say, good morning, I love you and I'm praying for you. And that's